Hello friends, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Techno by Waseem. For decades, millions of people laughed at Tom and Jerry's crazy fights. But behind this innocent cartoon is a story filled with hidden controversies, surprising secrets, and a history most fans never knew. So, how did a simple cat and mouse battle become one of the biggest cartoons in the world? Well, today, in this explainer, we're going to find out.
It's super easy to just look back at these characters with pure nostalgia, right? But today, we're actually going to strip all of that away. We're diving in to reveal the complex and honestly, sometimes very dark history hiding right beneath the surface of this beloved classic.
Section 1. A Cat and Mouse Tale.
So picture this. It's 1940. The world is literally facing destruction as World War II spreads across the globe. But during this exact same time, two men in America came up with an idea that would create one of the most famous cartoons in history. The original concept came from Joseph Barbera. He really wanted to create a show based on a never-ending battle between a cat and a mouse. Now, Barbera focused on writing the actual stories, while his partner, Hanna, he handled the timing, the animation, and the nitty-gritty production details. Together, they took a leap and presented their idea to the MGM production company.
Section 2. Secrets behind the name.
So they created this short animated film, and people absolutely loved the idea. But here's a crazy fact for you. At that time, the cat was not called Tom. No way. His original name was Jasper. And the mouse? He was called Jinx. Jasper and Jinx. But by 1941, MGM realized that these characters desperately needed a bit of a rebrand. They needed better names.
To fix this, MGM organized a massive naming contest where anyone could suggest new names for the duo. And the grand prize? A whopping $50. A man named John Carr ended up suggesting the names Tom for the cat and Jerry for the mouse. And just like that, for a mere $50, his winning idea crowned the most recognizable animated duo of all time.
But the story behind those names goes even deeper, because the phrase Tom and Jerry was actually famous way before the cartoon even existed. Back in 1821, a book called Life in London featured two characters named Corinthian Tom and Jerry Hawthorne, and these two were constantly getting into fights and adventures. Over time, Tom and Jerry literally became a common English phrase for people who were constantly bickering. And to top it off, by the 19th century, it was also the name of a super popular Christmas drink in America. So this famous drink and that old everyday phrase perfectly inspired the title for our legendary battling cartoon characters.
Section 3. Controversies and Censorship.
So, a cat and a mouse constantly fighting became an absolute worldwide sensation. But as we see with almost anything that hits massive popularity, controversies quickly followed. One highly controversial character was Mammy Two Shoes. She was the housemaid in the home where Tom and Jerry lived. Critics argued that her character utilized offensive stereotypes connected to black women during that era, and people accused the cartoon of containing racist elements. This criticism actually became so intense that some episodes were later edited, and her character was either changed completely or just removed. On top of that, there was the issue of smoking. Some of the older episodes showed Tom or Jerry smoking cigarettes. Since kids were the main audience, those scenes were eventually removed to protect younger viewers.
But that brings us to another major controversy, and honestly, a truly shocking storyline for a kids' comedy. We're talking about the darkest episode of 1956.
In this specific, highly restricted episode, Tom and Jerry appear incredibly depressed after suffering severe heartbreak. Here's what happens. Tom falls deeply in love with a female cat, but she rejects him to marry a wealthy rival instead. Jerry tries to comfort his friend, but then Jerry also loses the mouse he loves when she runs off and marries someone else.
The episode ends on this super bleak note where both Tom and Jerry are just sitting on a railway track waiting for an approaching train. Because of this, tons of fans mistakenly believed this was the series finale and that the characters actually died. Thankfully, that wasn't true, but it definitely remains one of the darkest moments in their entire history.
Section 4. The Prague Production Shift.
Let's shift gears a bit, because there is another surprising secret about Tom and Jerry's past. You see, animation has always been an extremely expensive, resource-heavy process. Even today, it takes a massive budget, but back then, the technology and resources were so incredibly limited. Because the costs were sky-high, the studio was backed into a corner in the 1960s, and they desperately had to find cheaper alternatives to keep the series alive.
So to slash those production costs, some of the Tom and Jerry cartoons were actually outsourced all the way to a small studio in Prague, Czechoslovakia. It was a complete split in production. The American writers and directors stayed in the US to create the stories, while the animators over in Prague handled the actual physical animation.
Now, those artists in Prague worked incredibly hard, but because they were essentially operating on a shoestring budget with far fewer resources, you can definitely see a noticeable drop in the visual quality compared to the original classic episodes. But you know what? Despite that dip in quality, the enduring magic of Tom and Jerry never disappeared. The core of those characters was just that strong.
Section 5. An enduring animated legacy.
Think about it. Even after more than 80 years, people all around the world are still watching these cartoons today. This show survived being created in the middle of world wars. It weathered intense censorship, and it powered through extreme budget cuts. Despite every hurdle thrown its way, a simple idea about a cat and mouse fighting defined the very concept of cartoons for entire generations. Literally, at one point, just the word cartoon itself automatically made people think of Tom and Jerry. So that wraps up our explainer for today. Now, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what was your absolute favorite cartoon from childhood? Was it Tom and Jerry, or maybe something completely different? Hit the comments and share your nostalgic memories with us down below. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.